To the first day of LDC, essentially. We are getting it kicked off with what we're going to talk about for LDC. We're going to go through our packet and what that is and how that helps us and what that's going to do for us as far as LDC goes. A couple things before we get started. If we could put our microphones on mute until we're ready to come up. Thanks. And then also our cameras. So Dan and I will be back bouncing back and forth, and so we'll mute our mics, we'll unmute our mics, so on and forth, and share our camera. And the rest of us just keep the cameras off. That way we don't suck too much internet, slow things down. So, first things first, we'll introduce Dan and I will introduce ourselves, and then the rest of us will introduce ourselves when we come up and when we show up on Monday. So my name is Mike Glazier or Mikey. One of the two is either of us fine. I work here in Knife River, been here almost 19 years, been with the training team for 3 years, worked in aggregates for about 16 years, all with Knife River. And it's pretty amazing to be able to work at a company that truly invests in its people and spends the money to send people to a 5-day class on how to be better leaders. It just blows my mind. And the facility, if you all haven't been here, or if you haven't, it's just amazing. Look forward to seeing everybody here, and it's pretty cool that our company does this for us. So looking forward to this class. Is one of my favorite classes to be part of. So looking forward to seeing everyone on Monday. So Dan.
Thanks, Mikey. Hey, good morning, everybody. My name is Dan, and I get the privilege of working with Mikey at an amazing training center. And I've been with the company a really long time. And Mikey and I have similar career paths. I've done almost everything on the mining side, everything from entry level with a shovel in my hand, all the way up to actually running the aggregate production plant, similar to Mikey, and everything in between, operated equipment, etc. And then did a little short stint on the construction side. So I know enough on the construction side to be dangerous. But I've been doing the whole training thing now for 34 and a half years, and really have invested my life in helping Knife River team members get better, safer, and more profitable. And so we're really excited about this class. It's amazing. It never gets old. It can be a life changer if people come into it with an open mind and a willingness to give these new skills a try. So we're excited to have everybody here today, and we really look forward to meeting on Monday. Mikey?
Thanks, Dan. All right. So with that, we'll move our attention towards PowerPoint slide. So just want to make sure everyone's able to see what we have on the screen. Should say leadership development course. If we come off mute, just make sure we can see that. We'll move forward.
Good.
Okay.
I do not see anything. Maybe it's just because I'm on my phone.
Okay.
Clear on this end.
All right, thank you. Carlton, well, that's going to be helpful if we can see it, because we're going to be showing some pictures and stuff and transcribing information from the screen to our packet. So we got a couple options. So, but not able to see it on your screen on your phone at all.
No, I don't believe so. Hold on. Let me see here. No, nothing so far.
Okay. What we can do is, well, we've got a couple options. You can just follow along and fill in as you understand in the packet here, and we'll do our best to kind of explain it. And then we're also recording this, so we can send you the recording, which will have the PowerPoint on there and everything.
Okay, that'll work.
So I guess you can still hang out with us until the end, and we'll forward the recording to you so you can kind of put the two pieces together. How about that?
Works for me, sir.
All right. All right. Well, moving on. So let's get this thing going. So cadre. So before we get too far into it, this course was built designed, pulled together, however we want to use it, many years ago, and it's evolved over the years, and it's evolved in multiple different ways. And so when this course was built, this LDC course or leadership development course was built, it was for a need, it was built on with the need of when the company does a survey and our results always say managers, supervisors, whoever, president, we suck at communication. I mean, that's the most blunt way to put it. We're not very good at communication based on the survey. So based on those survey results over the year after year after year, we had to come up with something that shored that up so we can get better communication. And that's where this course, this LDC course, became so important. And so that's where this is kind of come from over time, is based on the results and just our management and our team members wanting to know about what's happening in the work world, their day to day, and so we can better communicate with everybody. So that's kind of where this came from. And it, like we said, it's just evolved over the years from probably only being a couple days to all the way to a week long. We've moved things in and out. The students have had a lot of hands in it and making it a better than what it was when it originated. So the students drive how this course goes. And so we'll have an opportunity to kind of dive in that a little later on. So that's high level, kind of where the class came from, what it is. And so now we're gonna start diving in a little deeper to what we're gonna cover in that class in the 5 days, and then also talk about what this packet's for. So first word of the day is cadre. And so cadre is well, before we go, who would be willing to come off mute and read what cadre means?
Cadre is a noun, a key group of individuals selected and developed to train and lead others in their development.
Great, thank you. So there's going to be multiple opportunities. It sounds like Carlton won't be able to go through and can't see anything, so bounce between the other two of you. Is coming off mute and reading. The more interactive we can make this, the quicker it goes too. So there'll be opportunities for us to read definitely in the beginning of this PowerPoint, and then as we get through, we will there'll be a little less. But the more we kind of bounce back and forth and read, the quicker this goes. So thank you. Yeah, so cadre, we're going to hear that term quite a bit. It's what we refer to. It's a group of instructors, and just to kind of familiar, we've had a lot of people ask us, what in the heck is that word? So we put it in there per student request. So today's purpose, we got 3 things that we want to get ready for. And it's really is to prepare us for LDC. So we're preparing ourselves for LDC, not only with the packet that we have, also preparing us mentally, knowing what's coming up, what we're going to be expecting. We're not getting into the details necessarily because we'd be here forever, but we'll give the high level preparing us for what we're going to expect for the next 5 days when we show up Monday morning. And then naturally complete the incomplete packet of information. If we've looked through it already, kind of looks a little weird. There's some holes, there's no words, there's random graphs. So we will fill in that information, and that'll be our homework over the weekend, which prepares us is homework, and we will fill it out, we'll study it, and then we'll talk about how we're going to use it on Monday. So one other thing is this is one of two times that we will use PowerPoint for the entire week. This will be the longest chunk by far, and one of 2 times. We use it one other time Monday afternoon for a game. We're going to play a game Monday afternoon to go over information. Excuse me. So it's going to be a lot of in our seats, out of our seats, writing on the right beam, putting material up on the whiteboards, communicating with our groups, and practicing over and over and over again. So very, very little PowerPoint. So for some of us, that's a good thing, me included. I'm not much of a PowerPoint person. I have a tendency to check out when it's too long. So with that, so far, what questions do we have before we move on?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. if we get someone to read this, if they come off mute and read this and read it actually twice, because it's that important that we know this key takeaway.
Yes, I'll go ahead and read.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Key takeaway. It's not what we're doing, it's how we're doing it. Key
Great.
takeaway, it's not what we're doing, it's how we're doing it.
Awesome. Thank you. So, key takeaway. We're going to hear this over and over and over again. It's not what we're doing, it's how we're doing it. And this statement and quote is so important because when people come to class sometimes, or some students have come through and they're like, oh, this class is all about presentations. And it's far from the truth. We use the term presentations as a vehicle to allow us to move information. This course is more about how we deliver information, whether it be verbally or with our body and so many other things, is that we use presentations as the vehicle to be able to accomplish what we want to accomplish in this class. So you'll often hear us say, it's not what we're doing, it's how we're doing it. So very important key takeaway. So once again, it's not about presentations. It's how we communicate with our team members. It's how we communicate with the public. It's how we communicate with our supervisor. It's how we communicate with our spouses. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. It's how we communicate with people. That's what we're practicing and what we're working on the next 5 days. So our week together. So what we're going to do, if we could turn to page 1, and it should have some boxes, and it should look something similar to this. And there should be what says leadership development course, overall course outcomes check sheet. So this is going to be an opportunity for everybody to bounce back and forth as we go through these and read these as a group. We'll have people come off mute and read. And really what we're going to be going over is what our outcomes are for the week. There's more, but these are the biggies. These are the big outcomes that we want to accomplish for the week starting Monday. And there'll also be many, many more. So we'll just take a person at a time. We'll talk about each outcome. And if we get someone to come off mute, read the first one and off the screen, and then we'll go through it.
Build at least one effective verbal and visual message, including at least one interactive, non-lecture activity method of delivering the information message.
Thank you. So we're going to have the opportunity to build at least one effective visual and a verbal message, including one interactive non-lecture. So we are going to do way more than one, but we're going to at least build one interactive way to deliver a message. And we'll talk about all the ways that all the tools that we're going to go over to provide you all to use in designing this message. And we deliver messages every day. If we're in a leadership role, we deliver messages. They can be teeny tiny ones, or they can be really, really big ones. I mean, we do it all the time, every day, all day. So this is going to be hopefully pretty useful for everybody. All right. Next outcome. Who would be willing to read that one?
Verbally and visually deliver up to a duration of 15 minutes an important message or critical information to others using the ready, aim, fire, and reload method, meeting all the criteria outlined in the what our team members are expecting from us check sheet.
Thank you. So on Wednesday, we are going to deliver a message of our choice. The team, each individual gets to deliver a message for 15 minutes on a topic of their choice. Doesn't matter what topic is, as long as it's safe, respectful, and Dan, what's the other one? I lost it. Safe, respectful, and there's a third one. Dan will remember what it is. And so we'll pick a topic and we'll deliver a message for up to 15 minutes on that topic, and using the ready, aim, fire, reload method. And that we will explain on Tuesday afternoon what that is. Essentially, it is a system or a blueprint for how we can design how we deliver a message. So we'll definitely go into a deeper dive into that on Tuesday before we deliver our short practice on Wednesday morning, early afternoon. So, all right. So if we could just take a second, if we could all read this, the third outcome, and if somebody could come off of mute and tell us what are, I believe, two differences between this outcome and the previous outcome.
Presentation.
What? One more time. What was that?
This one looks like a team effort rather than an individual effort.
Okay, that's one. That's one thing. This is something else. Is the time different?
Oh, 40 to 80 minutes.
Ah, yeah. Woof, that seems like a long time. Yeah. So difference is we are gonna from the previous one is an individual 15 minutes, small chunk delivered. It's kind of like the warm up essentially for the biggie, which is on Thursday, and that's where we're gonna have an opportunity to work with a partner and deliver a message up to 80 minutes. We're looking for an hour. That's kind of the round. We're not going to be there back there with a stopwatch and saying, all right, start. Well, we'll start do that, but we're not going to say at 60 minutes the curtain rod comes out and we pull you off the stage, and we're not doing that. So it's a range. So the things, but everything else is the same. We'll use the ready, fire, reload method and go through that. It's just going to be longer, and there'll be two people because there's going to be a lot of opportunities in our career where we're going to be working with a partner or with three people and delivering some sort of message to a group of people. And this just gives us the opportunity to be able to practice that and get comfortable with that. So, what questions do we have between those last two outcomes, between the 15-minute and the single 15 or in the double the 60-minute one? What questions might we have? All right. All right, who's reading the next one?
Outcomes demonstrate providing verbal and or visual instructions, directions to another individual or individuals.
Thank you. We deliver instructions, directions, way more than we probably even realize. And it is probably one of the most toughest things we do as a leader or team member is give instructions. And when we give instructions, it's happened to me. I've been in a leadership role a few different times where I would give an instruction or direction, and it'd be my message would be here, and then the other person comes in here, and we miss. And then in my mind, I'm like, gosh, dang, why didn't they do what I asked them to do? Well, it probably starts with me and maybe how I delivered it, how I said it. And so we're going to work on tools to make ourselves more effective at delivering and providing instructions and directions. So this is a really key thing as a leader. Who's reading the next one?
Apply at least 4 tips when giving positive and or 5 tips when giving constructive feedback to at least one individual during the course.
Thank you. Our team members that we work with a day in, day out, they want feedback. They want positive feedback. They want to know what they're doing good at. They need to know what they're doing good at. So we're going to practice at least 4 tips on how to give positive feedback to our team members or to our peers and to encourage them to keep growing and keep moving in a positive direction in whatever they're doing. So we're going to definitely practice that quite a bit, a lot of it. And then the next one.
Practice receiving positive and/or constructive feedback at least one time using the 7 tips presented during the course.
Thank you. So not only do we need to practice giving it, we need to practice receiving it. And this is, for some folks, this is tough, but it's very important. And it gives us an opportunity to, if we can dish it, we got to be able to take it at the same time. And because we want to get better ourselves. And often our team members or our peers or our supervisors are trying to provide us with that feedback. And so we're going to practice that as well. Not only giving it, but receiving positive and constructive feedback, because we want to get better as well as leaders. And we also need to provide that to our team members for them opportunities of growth. All right, next outcome.
Demonstrate using at least 3 out of the 8 best practices of highly credible leaders discussed within the course during at least 2 presentation opportunities.
Thank you. So not only are we going to work on verbal ways to communicate and effectively communicate with our team members and peers, but how we hold ourselves, our body, what message we send physically is just as important as how we deliver a message verbally. So we're going to practice and learn some techniques and tricks, not tricks, but techniques to be confident when we're delivering a message, because not all the news we deliver is warm and fuzzy. Sometimes we have to deliver really bad news, potentially. If we're working with a customer on a job site and we have to let them down, we maybe want to let them down gently. So we need to be able to project that confidence with our body language at the same time. So we're going to learn about 8 of them, but we're going to try and latch on to at least 3 by the end of class. So before we turn to page 2, before we do that, what questions might we have when it comes to the outcomes for this course? This is the biggies, but there's plenty more outcomes, but these are the big ones. So what questions might we have on the outcomes? Okay. Also, if we look at the bottom of that page where the outcomes are, there'll be a spot that says course standards, and the course content is based upon research and best practices from the following down below. So this course wasn't built out of thin air necessarily, but there are some knife river best practices that are put in there, but we got a lot of this from these standards down below from these different accredited locations. So we didn't pull that out of thin air necessarily. So with that, we can turn to page 2, and Dan is going to take us through what is expected on Monday.
All right, Mikey, thank you. So we're going to go through at a very high level 5 days. And this is, remember, it's not what we're doing, it's how we're doing it. And our team members want to know kind of the big picture. That's one of the key things. And so we're going to try to put our money where our mouth is and lead by example. So a lot of times people come to courses, they show up, they have no clue other than my boss told me I'm supposed to be here at 7 o'clock or 7:30. So it's important that we communicate expectations to our team members no matter what it is. So on Monday is going to be a heavy knowledge day. The way it progresses is Monday is mostly knowledge, Tuesday is mostly skill and behavior building, and then Wednesday, Thursday is practice. We're going to practice based upon the knowledge that we learned. And so on Monday, we're going to just learn how to be more effective in communicating and understanding how people do what they do. So that's the foundation for sharing information. We'll also come up with some ways to help people remember. So if we need customers or team members to remember critical information, the worst haunting words I hear from people is, oh yeah, you told me, but I forgot. So we're going to learn how to make information stick. We're also going to be more effective in connecting with our workforce and the public. And then at the end of the day, we'll introduce what we call the situational leadership model. What we'll find out is by Thursday and Friday, all of this is all these separate parts and pieces are all going to kind of gel together and make sense by the time we get to Friday. So Monday is really a heavy theory day, but it's going to be very interactive. As Mikey said, No PowerPoint except for a game that we do at the end of the day to help remember this information. So now Mikey's going to take us through on Tuesday.
Thanks, Dan. So Tuesday, we're going to move on from the theory side of delivering a message, and we're going to go more to the skill-based side. So both days are super important, but we got to put the two worlds together. So we got to be able to say it, and we got to be able to do it. So we're going to be on more of the do it side on Tuesday. And a lot of that has to do with how we connect before we communicate, some things we can do with our body language to project the message in which we're verbally expressing. Feedback and practicing giving and receiving feedback is a key to our success in business and what we do every day. So we got to be able to give it, and we need to be able to receive it, and we're going to be able to go through those techniques and how to do that. Visual. So visual communication is, we're going to learn what we learned on Monday. We're going to then apply more towards the visual side. So as an example, this is a visual. So having something for our team members to have in front of them as a reference for a visual or representation of the information which is being shared. And so we'll talk about best practices, how to engage. It's a lot of engagement. How do we engage our team members each day? Whether it be a safety briefing or a job toolbox talk, or I mean, the list goes on what examples are, but how do we engage our team members to get as much out of them as possible? Not only that, instructions and directions, we talked about that a little bit in one of the outcomes. How do we effectively give instructions so our message comes in here and our message is received here, and then we're good to go, and there's no loss of information, and the team's off and running with the vision in which we had in our head. We'll start developing a message, and so that'll happen Tuesday afternoon, where we will take and we'll break down the RAFR and what that is and how it works and put it into play, in which we will do a chalkboard talk with whiteboards. No chalk here, but with whiteboards. And we'll map that out and what that looks like, really break it down and how it applies to everyday real life situation and when we deliver a message. Then we'll wrap up, we're hoping around 2:30-ish, somewhere in there. Times are pretty fluid for the most part, but we'll try and get done fairly early, where we'll open up the center, pretty much the entire center, for homework. And this is where we're going to have an opportunity, where we will have an opportunity to develop our message, build a visual aid of some sort to prep us for the following day. And then naturally we'll have homework. We have homework every single day but Friday, and it just progressively gets a little harder and a little harder and a little harder. So just keep that in mind, because each day, some nights are easy nights, some nights are long nights. So whatever we can do to prepare our team members, family members, that there might be some long nights, hopefully no one's staying up till 1 a.m. or anything, which has happened, but to set aside a few hours to be able to get these messages built and put together. So that's homework and what's happening on Tuesday. So what questions about Tuesday do we have? Dan, what are we doing on Wednesday?
Hey, Wednesday is a great day, Mikey, because it's less of us and less of the cadre and all about those participating in the class. So Monday's theory, Tuesday's skill, Wednesday it all comes together. This is the day where Mikey, remember, he says, as long as it's safe, legal, and respectful, we can pick any topic of our choice, and we will build an effective message using the new knowledge and skills that we've learned on Monday and Tuesday. Remember, what we're going to call a short practice. So it'll take about 15 minutes each. And then we're going to receive feedback from not only our peers, but from the cadre. So Wednesday is all about getting us prepared for and delivering that short practice. Once we're done with that short practice, we will huddle up, and then we will start pairing up in teams of 2 and coming up with a new topic, and then start using the RAFR to build a longer message, which happens on Thursday. Doesn't it, Mikey?
Yes, it does, Dan. So Thursday is a fun day. Thursday is a long day, but a fun day. This is where we start to see all the wheels, everything's starting to come together even more so than the previous day. And Thursday is going to be pretty much all day delivery of our messages and a partner for up to hour and 20 minutes or so, but looking about that 60-minute range, and where we'll have designed our message, built our visual aids, whatever those are, and deliver to the rest of the group a topic of our choice. That's a majority of the day. Then we're going to wrap up the day. We'll do a debrief of the day, how it went of the previous 4 days, talk that through, and then we'll actually have what we call an evening social on Thursday, where we'll go out to where we usually have lunch in the Brazos River Room, and our catering staff will have hors d'oeuvres out there, opportunity for an adult beverage or a non-alcoholic beverage, and where we can sit out there to relax really after 4 long days, almost done with the week. So we encourage everyone to stay and enjoy. It'll probably start around 4:35, somewhere around there, and we'll spend about an hour and a half back there and then wrap up for the night. So please make plans to be able to stay that night. It's a good time. It's relaxing. The weather's supposed to be nice, so we can then turn the fire on and hang out back there. So then we have Friday.
We sure do. So Friday, woohoo, wrap up day. It's not going to be a full day. We're going to end. We'll definitely get through lunch, and it won't go till 5. So don't want to promise a time, but it's going to be an early afternoon, so we can kind of have a plan A and B if we want to go to the coast or go do something fun for a couple hours before we head up to the airport. But I wouldn't make, if I'm going to make travel plans, I'd make them for 6 or 7 o'clock that evening. I wouldn't make them for 2 or 3 or 4 in the afternoon, because that'll really mess you up. But if you want to make travel plans for like no earlier than 6, you're probably okay, because we'll usually get done somewhere in that 2 to 3 o'clock in the afternoon time frame. Then you have 2 hours to drive to the airport, and you got to at least be there an hour early at least. So I wouldn't plan an early departure on Friday. But on Friday, basically, we're going to do a comprehensive revisit of everything that we've covered from today's Teams meeting all the way what we accomplished on Thursday afternoon. And we're going to be showing how to deliver a message in a more real world environment, like next to a job site, busy job site, or on a mining site where there's lots of noise, people driving by, distracting, and you got all sorts of things going on that's competing for people's attention. So remember, this is about how to be more effective communicating, and the world is full of distractions. We could be talking, and next thing you know, we got people playing with these phones, or we got people driving by in trucks interrupting us, or a loud noise happens and we turn our attention away. There's just multiple competing things going on. And so if it's important, we want to make sure we have everybody's focus and attention, which is what we'll demonstrate on Friday. And then we will wrap up early, like I said, between 2 and 3. And remember, it takes at least 2 hours to get to the Portland airport. And then you want to check in at least an hour and a half early. So most people leave on Saturday morning, which is really what we recommend. But if you want to get out of there and do a red eye on Friday, then probably 7 o'clock would be a good time to be boarding the plane and departing about 7:30. Mikey?
Thanks, Dan. So with that, what questions do we have about the schedule before we shift gears into our next chunk? All right. Well, here we go. Next chunk. So we are going to dive into what will be the homework. We're going to need our packet. We'll need a pen or pencil, and we will need to be shortly here on page 3. So before we dive into the screen, we'll do a little high level of what exactly this packet is for. So there are 10 concepts that we are going to go over, and some of these concepts have way more explanation in there, and some of them are going to get the explanation from Dan or I. filling in. There's probably some blank spots that we're going to have to fill in some information. So the more notes we can take during this, the better. We will record that is being recorded. We will send it out to everybody. And so what we'll end up doing with this packet of information, once it's complete by the end of this meeting, is we want to look over all 10 concepts. We don't need to be the world's expert on them. We don't need to search Google on them. We don't need to go that deep. All the information we need will be in the packet. So we need to become familiar with all 10 before Monday morning. Come Monday morning, we are going to be randomly assigned one of these 10. So if I show up Monday morning and I see my name, I might have number 4 or 5 or 7, and then I'll have to deliver a short message, message on maybe it's this first one looks like a stool. I might have to deliver a 3 to 5 minute message on the outcome stool and what it is, and build a visual aid for that. And we'll provide time in class. There's nothing we need to do prior to class, no PowerPoint needed or anything like that. So we'll be taking notes with these. Some of these concepts Dan and I will spend a lot of time on, or not a lot, but a few more minutes than average. And then others will kind of screen over because there's quite a bit of writing and or quite a bit of reading associated with each one. So that is what we're going to be doing with these 10 concepts. We'll revisit that at the end of this meeting to make sure everyone is on the same page, no pun intended, and moving forward. So with that, if we turn to what should look like this, should be a stool. It should be on page 3. So if we'll look at the screen here, we'll notice that we have a 1. So we put a 1 in the top right corner of this and we circle it. That signifies that this is concept number 1. So if we get assigned this one, then we'll know concept number 1. And then we notice the picture. This will be the graphic that someone would probably recreate on a visual aid and then be able to fill in the information and explain what the heck an outcome stool is. So with that, what questions we have before we move on to the 10 concepts? Well, here we go. So page 3 through 5 for concept number 1. So we'd make a 1 up in the right corner, circle that for concept number 1. And we're going to talk briefly about the business outcome stool. This particular one, right out the gate, has quite a bit of reading already associated with it. So we're going to do pretty high level of what exactly it is. So if we get assigned this one, we have an opportunity to explain what it is. So business outcome stool is something that allows us to meet the goal. It gives us a metric to be able to meet a goal. And that goal is the outcome. As an example, if we are a dispatcher and we are dispatching ready-mix trucks to a job site, that would be our outcome. And so in order to meet our outcome, we have to have 3 legs to a stool to keep that outcome up off the ground. So in a sense, if we lose a leg of our stool, then we are less likely to meet our outcome and our outcome will hit the ground. So we need 3 things to make sure that we hopefully get to where our outcome is, or get that ready mix truck from dispatch to the job site safely and on time. So first thing we need is we need a leader. That is us. We are the leader. We are the dispatcher. We are the person that is hopefully holding it all together and providing information. So that leader provides information. So that's 2 parts of it. So the leader kind of oversees the project or that particular outcome. And we as leader, we need to be delivering our instructions clearly and concise. We need to be listening to our team members on what might need to be changing. And so we're kind of that quarterback essentially in when we're trying to move through that outcome. And then that second part is the information. And that information is all the important details that the team member needs to know in order to complete said outcome. And so get that ready mix truck to the job site. So as a leader, when we provide that information, we want to make sure we're not getting in the weeds and providing too much detail, or in some cases, not enough detail. And so there's a sweet spot in there to where the information, there's enough that the team member can get to the outcome effectively, safely, and on time, depending on what it is. And then naturally, we have the team member, and that's the person that's delivering the concrete, driving the truck from point A to point B, and get to the job site, which would be the outcome. So all in all, we must have all three legs. We must have the leader, the information, and the team member in order to reach our outcome effectively for the job. So with that, more reading along with this one. Feel if when we do our homework, just read through this one and it'll explain it a little deeper in detail. So with that, what questions we have about concept number 1? All right, Dan, what we have on concept number 2?
Yeah, hey, I may not be able to use my camera. I'm going to try it. Whoa, got a little sunshine coming in here. I'm having some bandwidth issues, so I'm going to turn my camera off just for, and then plus I got to fix the screen here. So one of the things that we're going to talk about in concept number 2 is working outside our comfort zone. Now, or it can be called nervous anxiety. People, especially doing public speaking, people get really nervous and really anxious. But this is more than about just public speaking. As we'll see on our next page here, we'll see a graph. And as leaders, we're going to find out here in just a minute. As leaders, it sounds really weird, but there's going to be times where we want to push our team members. We want to create a little positive anxiety. I'm not talking drama, but I want to talk about a little bit about positive anxiety to get a bit higher performance. So as we can see in this next slide, there's a quote, and that is, life begins at the edge of our comfort zone. We would think that being low anxiety would be a good thing. But there are times as leaders where we want to nudge our team members because we know we can get more out of them. We want them to grow. We want them to change. And we want them to step up. So if we look at this graph, and it should be similar to what we have in our handout, we'll see in the lower left-hand corner, there is, if people have no pressure or no nudging from us or from our job, then they just function on autopilot. I call it zombie mode. We just kind of meander through life, bored, and there's no expectation to change, and we're very comfortable. And so that sounds really nice, and it is, and we should spend some time of our life, our work life, in that zone where we kind of got everything all dialed in and life's pretty cushy. But at some point, strategically as leaders, we need to either push ourselves, which we hope we're going to do next week in the LDC classes. We're either willingly doing this or the boss told us we had to do this. But regardless, we're going to be pushed out of our comfort zone next week, which is what we should be doing with our team members. But what we don't want to do is get pushed so hard that it pushes us far to the right. And so far to the right is there's so much pressure on us to change or to perform and to meet a new standard that we essentially shut down. And this is where we have people quit. They find excuses to call in sick, or they find other reasons to avoid the pressure. And we definitely don't want that. And so that's not going to happen in LDC next week. And we don't want people, as leaders, we shouldn't be pushing our people to the extreme. But what we should be doing is a gentle nudge, which is right here in the middle. And we'll see right here in the middle is where we're going to get our best performance. So periodically, our team members, we need to be, as leaders, find ways to give them challenges that kind of pushes them in the moderate zone. And when we do that, we'll see our performance starts to change, and we're going to see our team members grow. And this is one of the things that Knife River is really good about, is especially like with the LDC course, is they want us to step up to the next level, which all of us can do. And so one of the ways they do that is by sending us to the LDC class, which for sure is going to push us into the moderate comfort zone area. Now, there's some techniques that we can use to deal with that, and that's called breathing. And I know that sounds crazy, but in my prior lifetime, I had the privilege of working with SWAT teams, other teams that intentionally go into harm's way. And before they open the door or kick the door in and step in and try to find either the terrorists or they try to find the suspect, they know that they're putting themselves in harm's way where they or their team members could either get seriously injured or die that day. And so there's a technique used by SWAT teams and special operations teams called the 4-4-4-4 method. And we can use that when we have to get up and tell our team members some really bad news, or we got to go to a customer and tell them, you know what, we promised you we'd have this job done by Friday, and guess what? It's going to ruin your weekend, and we're not going to be able to get it done until next week. So you don't want to say the message, but you know you have to. This is an amazing technique, and it's in our handout of how to breathe before we have to do something that may be more stressful than normal. So I know I used this technique during the LDC course a lot. So anyway, the comfort zone, this is one of the concepts that we need to start embracing in order to change ourselves and to change our team to become better, safer, and more profitable. All right, we're going to continue on. Mikey's going to take us into concept number 3.
Thanks, Dan. So if we go to page 9, and we can make a number 3 up there on page 9, and we're going to need to do a little reading here in a moment before we move on. So who would be willing to come off of mute and read the first asterisk, starting with as leaders, and read that to the group?
As leaders, we need and want highly competent or skilled, knowledgeable team members, right? We also want team members who have a good attitude. How do we accomplish this?
Thank you. Yeah, so we want highly competent people. We want people that are engaged. We want them, they're skilled, their knowledge. I mean, those are all big traits that we want people to have. Very important. So second asterisk, who would be willing to read that one?
A competency is defined as being able to do a job or task adequately or at a high standard of performance quality.
Thank you. So competency. So we're going to hear that word often in this concept, and definitely in the next concept. These two are often great, very related. So competency, we're going to define that. It is a person that can do a job or a task adequately at a high standard of performance or quality. All right, and then the last one, the third asterisk.
Competency is defined as the knowledge, skill, and/or behavior necessary to meet this standard of performance.
Thank you. So now we're going to define that, and that is defined by what is on the screen here. So if we'll notice that our packet is incomplete with information, and we have SKAB, and we'll talk about those here in a moment, but let's take the next 32 to 42 seconds and let's transcribe what's on the screen and put it into our packet of information for skills, knowledge, attitude, and behavior. And once that's complete, just let us know and we will move on.
You wouldn't be willing to possibly read that out, would you, since I can't see your screen?
Oh, sorry, Courtney. So skills is, so for S is skills, and it is what someone can do. Knowledge for K, knowledge, what someone knows. Knowledge, what someone knows. A for attitude. A for attitude. What someone likes / dislikes. What someone likes or dislikes. Behaviors for B. Behaviors. How someone acts out or does. How someone acts out or does.
Thank you, sir.
Good to go? All right. So we talked about defining what competency is, and it's skills, knowledge, attitude, and behavior. That's what defines competency. So starting with the first one, skills, as it says, what someone can or can't do. So when it comes to finding a person to do a job that's to be able to do that job or task adequately, we as leaders need to know what can they do. So if we ask our team member to do something and they don't have the skills in order to do it, then we might be setting them up for failure potentially. Or maybe we're pushing them out of their comfort zone a little bit, and maybe they have a little bit of knowledge, or sorry, a little bit of skill, but enough skill to be able to complete it. Maybe not quickly, but they can definitely do it safely. Which ties into knowledge as well, what someone knows. So once again, is in order for that person or that team member to do that task, is what do they know about what can they do it, and what do they know about it? And so that all ties into how that person does that job adequately. Where it gets a little different is attitude and behavior. So attitude, we'll notice, is lowercase and has lowercase on purpose. So attitude, what someone likes or dislikes. So an attitude is not observable. Excuse me. So attitude is not observable. So when we say that Bobby has a bad attitude, well, how do we know? Because we can't see it. That's something that is in their mind and how they feel about something. But what we can observe is behaviors. And behaviors is how someone acts out. So as an example, we have for lunch, maybe potentially for lunch, we have Canadian bacon and pineapple pizza for lunch on Monday afternoon. And I show up to the lunch line and I get my piece of pizza and I eat my piece of pizza. My behavior would show that I don't mind eating Canadian bacon and pineapple. But truly, what my attitude is that pineapple does not belong on pizza. Should never be there. But that's my attitude towards it. But my behavior is that I'm moving forward with it, and I'm just going to do what it is. Another reason why this is important is when we are documenting as leaders information on our team members, and if we write in a performance review that Bobby has a bad attitude, well, that's not really something that stands up because that's not observable. We can't define that essentially in an act. But what we can document is that his behavior. So my behaviors could show my attitude. So if I showed up to the lunch line to get a piece of pizza and I started complaining that there was pineapple on it and I started throwing a fit about it, that would be a representation of my attitude. And then that is documentable. We can say we could document that in my performance review potentially or whatever, that Mikey's attitude towards pineapple is he hates it or is bad about it or whatever it is. So big difference between the two, and things to remember as a leader is that attitude is not observable, but our behavior, what we show, is observable. So what questions we have about skill, knowledge, attitude, and behavior before we move on to the next little bit? All right, so competency development is we need to, in order to build that new skill, that knowledge or behavior, it takes us on average between 3,000 5,000 repetitions. So when we bring on a new hire or we hire somebody into our group and we say, all right, Johnny, you got this job to do. You have a little bit of skill, a little bit of knowledge, you have positive behavior. All right, let's go do it. And what our expectations should be aware of what our expectation is. So because it takes so many repetitions to build that muscle memory, it takes 3,000 to 5,000 repetitions to build that muscle memory. So something to keep in mind when we're training new people or bringing new hires onto our company. The other side of it is if we have a bad habit or an incorrect habit for our company, it takes twice as long because we have to unlearn that muscle memory that we created and then relearn the next chunk. So, and this will tie into a concept we're going to talk about here in a couple slides. We'll talk about a concept that really relates to this and further in depth. But we're going to see that number often. It takes 3,000 to 5,000 repetitions to create a muscle memory and double that in order to break and recreate a new habit. So with that, what questions we have about concept number 3? Okay. So here Dan's gonna take us through the next one, and it's not a concept, so we can park the pen, rest our hand, and Dan's gonna take us through some assumptions that we realized over the years.
Okay, thanks, Mikey. I'm guys, I'm out camping. I'm on vacation this week, but so I'm running this computer off of a cell phone, and my bandwidth is really weak. So I'm just going to leave the cameras off. But what we're going to talk about is we're going to tie two concepts together. We're going to talk about the one Mikey just talked about, SCAB, or skills, knowledge, and behavior. And then Mikey's going to come back here in just a minute and talk about the competency matrix. And the two of them are tied together. But in the middle, we want to just share a real world example that we learned. And many years ago, I'd say 15, 16 years ago, we thought that if we hired somebody and brought them to our operation, and let's say year number 1, they didn't know how to run a rubber tired wheel loader in a mining or construction application. And so we brought them on board and we taught them everything we know how to run a wheel loader. By the end of that first year, they're going to be okay. They're going to do a decent job. They're definitely not at the top of their game, but they're good at what they do. They're going to be what we would call competent. And then what conventional wisdom believes, that most of us believe, that is if we just let them go, and organically, naturally, the more experience they get, the better they're going to get. And each year, they're just going to get better and better and better. And at some point, they're going to be our best people. They're going to be what we call extremely competent. And so you have a person with 5 to 20 years of experience. We're going to brag about them being, quote, our best wheel loader operator we have, because we just believe that if you just let people do their job for a long period of time, that just naturally and organically, they're just going to get better and better. And we believe that. And that's conventional wisdom. So when we started 15 years ago with our equipment, experienced operator equipment training, I'm going to try the camera. It seems to be working right now. We started about 15 years ago. We partnered with Caterpillar. And Caterpillar had traveled all over the world and had looked at the most experienced operators in the universe. And they found out that experience does not necessarily equate to competency. And so they started basing their training on, in Australia, every operator is required to be certified. And as a certified operator, they have to demonstrate mastery of certain skills based upon certain criteria. And here in the United States, we don't do that at all. We train them up the basics and we just let them go at it. And everybody kind of does their own thing. There's no standards for operating equipment other than like cranes and forklifts. But for loaders, no can do. So it is 15 years ago, we partnered with Caterpillar. We invested in their curriculum. We became certified by Caterpillar to deliver Caterpillar experienced operator training. And when we started delivering the training, we thought, let's do a benchmark. Let's do what we call a pre-assessment, and let's see where these operators are before we introduce any training at all. because we kept our operators, our managers kept saying, I don't need to send them to training because they're the best. I have the best people. So we started measuring them in 5 different areas. So we measured training before and after. We started measuring them before training and after training. So on safety, for example, we asked 20 questions about machine specific safety. And as we can see, irrespective of the years of experience, it doesn't make any difference. Our operators about the same. They knew about 1/3 of what they needed to know. And when it came to walk around inspections, they were all about the same. In fact, our most so the colors is the light or the light green or the green is 0 to 5 years experience. The blue is 5 to 20. And then the light white or gray is our most seasoned people at 20 to 35 years of experience. So moving on to the next, machine knowledge. None of our operators knew much about the machines. They knew about 15 to 16% of what these machines are capable of doing, even the most basic of functions. And then when it comes to operation, no big surprise, our operators are very good operators. They range anywhere from 68% to 74% out of 100. But the key takeaway here was our most seasoned people, 20 plus years of experience, are only 6% better on operating the machine from the newer people. So the moral of the story is experience does not necessarily equate to high levels of competency. People are going to learn so much. Experience is only going to add so much value, and then they're going to tap out. And the only way we're going to get better, that we're going to compete with our competitors, is not by buying better loaders, because our competitors can buy better loaders. The only way we can get better is by making our people better, safer, and more profitable through helping them grow. And so one of the ways we do that is through advanced training. And so this is where one of the reasons why people like us are coming to the LDC course is we're not going to become better leaders or coaches just by doing it naturally. We're going to need some input and from help from outsiders, which is why we have the LDC course. And so we will be doing the same thing in the LDC course, is we're going to be doing some evaluating of our skills and abilities, and we'll be able to share some of that data with us hopefully by Friday afternoon. Now, what we're going to do is, we talked about SCAB. We know that it can be measured, and we know that people naturally need some help in growing our skills to be more competent. And so you have to do that. He's going to talk to us about that.
All right. Thanks, Dan. All right. So we turn to page 10, and Carlton, this one might be a little tough. So we'll probably just hang out because there's quite a bit. There's a lot of writing with this one. So you'd probably be in best option to watch the recording and to see what we're putting on the page, because it'd take a while to write it all out. So if you're cool with that, Carlton, we'll just kind of move forward and then just kind of follow along. And there is some reading along with this one as well.
Yes, sir.
All right. So on page 10, if we write a number 4 up there in the top right corner, this is concept number 4. We should have a blank box. First things first, we need to label the axes. And so with that, we have unconscious at the upper left, conscious lower left, incompetent lower left, competent lower right. So once we have those labeled, we'll start diving into what the heck competency matrix is. And to do that, I'm going to use as an example, as we go through this, my daughter learning how to drive. She's 16. She got her license about 8 months ago. And so this is just really fresh in my mind. And that's the example we're going to use, the analogy. So first things first, upper left corner is unconsciously incompetent. So what it means to be unconsciously competent is they don't know what they need to know. They have no idea. It's not good. It's not bad that they don't know. It's just the unknown. They are unknown about whatever the task is. And so, for example, my daughter had no clue how to drive, had no idea what it was. She ridden in a car, but really had no clue how to be the driver aspect of it. So when she got her permit, this is where she started, was the unconsciously incompetent, didn't know anything about the car, driving, blinkers, lights, shifting, traffic. I mean, the list goes on. Unknown. She gets her permit. Now she moves into the consciously incompetent. So now she's behind the wheel, and then she has this moment, what we call the great awakening, is wow, it is not easy to drive. There's a lot to it. And so we now move from unknown in the upper left, we move more to the known. Now we are aware that we don't know. So we are consciously incompetent to whatever the task is. We have this what's called a great awakening, where it's like the light bulb goes off and it's, hey, there's things to learn here. I'm willing to learn, hopefully, about said skill. So my daughter was like, cool, driving is hard now, but I'm willing to learn. So now that the person is aware that they don't know, they start practicing, and they can do it as long as they think about it. So as she's driving with a permit and being coached all the time about, need to turn your blinker on, all right, merge in the other lane, yellow light does not mean speed up, that means slow down. It's not a red light, it's where we stop. And so anyways, we're going through these things, and so she can do the driving, but she has to think about it or be coached through it. So she is consciously competent about the task of driving. So she's getting this practice in, and she can do it, but she has to be coached and she has to think about it. And it's no different than our team members on our job sites. When we ask them to do a task and they have no clue what it is, we give them a little bit of instruction. They are now aware what it is, and now they're moving into the consciously competent. They have to think about how to run the controls on an excavator, but they can do it at least. They may not be really efficient at it, but they can at least do it. Time goes by, and people become what's called unconsciously competent. This is where we want to move people to, or our team members, into this bucket, is unconsciously competent, to where they're doing the job or task adequately, safely, profitably, and they don't have to think about it. And that's where that 3,000 to 5,000 repetitions come from, is we need to create that muscle memory. And so now that my daughter has her driver's license, I think she's still in the 3,000 to 5,000 reps, but she's moving her way up. She's working on it. But she's driving on her own. She's navigating it all by herself. She still might have to think about it a little bit, but she's moving to that muscle memory where we all are probably at when it comes to driving. And so with our team members, it's the same thing. We need to provide that time for them to be able to get comfortable and get those repetitions in, to be hopefully unconsciously competent in that task. So this is an evolution. So we start in the upper left corner and we move around in that circle. This is something we do. I've been in this situation several times, and throughout my entire career, is we always are moving. We might not always start in the unconsciously competent necessarily, but we might have a little bit of clue, but we could be moving and starting in this, know about it, but not a lot about it. And so it's just evolution going around and around. And we are going to be living in this matrix next week. We're going to be starting in unconsciously competent with some stuff, and it's going to be totally brand new, and we're just going to work our way through there. We probably won't get to 3,000, 5,000 reps, but we're going to start fresh and start with good reps. And then there's this group in the middle, special group of people. So that is the intentionally incompetent. These are the people that don't like change, prevent change, know everything potentially, and sometimes will, in a group setting, will sabotage other people from learning and progressing in their way. It's a very small group of people, but there is a group of them out there, and they're the intentionally incompetent. And so when my daughter was driving, she lived in this section once in a while, which was, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Well, you do. You just got to do it. And so people fall into this trap once in a while. We got to pull them out of there, encourage them, that positive, constructive feedback, and pull them out of there. It is challenging, but they're in there. So the intentionally incompetent. So with that, what questions we have about concept number 4? Okay. Well, Dan's going to take us through concept number 5, I believe.
Okay, we'll give it a try. I'm going to try the camera here. Hopefully holler if it's not working right. One of the joys that I have camping is here a few years ago, my wife decided she wanted us to buy a used RV. So we bought a used motorhome, and I've been driving my whole life. And speaking of unconsciously incompetent, I noticed when I was going up hills, it would constantly shift up and then down, up and then down. And so finally I read the owner's manual, and poof, I had this great awakening. There's a mode that you can poke a button and it changes the gear ratio in the transmission, so it doesn't shift up and down like I'm going up in hills and down hills. But I kept forgetting to turn it on because I didn't have those 3,000 to 5,000 reps. And so now that's after I start the engine, that's the first thing I do is put it in, I call it RV mode. And so, this competency matrix, it's all part of change. And we are our change agents in our company if we're going to be better, safer, and more profitable. And as owners in the new Knife River now, we're all shareholders. We have got to change. We live in a different world than we used to. We were kind of protected by MDU resources, but now we're out there exposed to the whole world to see. And our shareholders are expecting us to grow. And if we don't grow and make more money and do things differently, then we're very vulnerable. We could be gobbled up by somebody else. So we got to figure out a way to do positive change. So we'll see on pages 11 and 12, the change curve. There's a lot of good information about the change curve. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on it because I know we can read it. I'm just going to hit some highlights. So for those of us that can't see the screen, the bottom bar, the horizontal bar will represent time. So we can go ahead and write the word time on the bottom horizontal. I believe that's the x-axis. On the y-axis that goes up and down or vertical, we have the word productivity, but we can also substitute the word, we can substitute it with quality. It's whatever we're trying to change. If we're trying to change productivity, if we're trying to get faster, if we're trying to increase quality, if we're trying to increase or reduce cycle times, it can be anything that we're trying to change. But for today, we'll just write productivity. And then we'll notice the line that takes off in the center. And by the way, the assumption is if we automatically by decree say, hey, we're going to make a change, that poof, change automatically happens. And so we can say, hey, we just bought a new software program for batching concrete or asphalt or dispatching trucks, and poof, automatically we're just going to get better. So when we go out and we tell our team members that we're going to make a change, we as leaders expect the change to happen almost instantaneously. The reality is not so much. The reality is when we go out and we explain to our team that there's going to be a change, and we have expectations of change, and our people go back to work, if we are doing our job correctly, and I know this sounds really wackadoo, but if we're doing our job correctly and we say there's a change and we know we're going to suck at the change for a while, and we know that our productivity or quality is going to go downhill, not uphill for a while, but we know in the long run it's going to pay off. And so as we're experimenting and trying, working with new software, new equipment, trying a new procedure, it's going to take those 3,000 to 5,000 reps before we start turning the corner. And once we turn the corner, then we will start seeing the new quality or productivity or whatever it is that we're trying to change. We're going to see it improve. We're going to see this change curve next week. We're going to see, be very observant and mindful of everybody's skills in delivering a message Monday morning compared to how we are doing on Wednesday, and in particular on Thursday. We're going to see people struggling with these new skills Monday and Tuesday and even on Wednesday, but we'll see a huge turnaround by Thursday. And we will actually see this change curve happen right in front of us. And then we want to take this concept and carry it on out back to our teams back on the job. So this is the concept on the change curve. What questions might we have about anything covered so far, including this concept? All right, Mikey's going to continue with our next concept.
Thanks, Dan. All right, so page 13, 14. If we turn to page 14, and there is also with this one quite a bit of reading, so we'll mosey through this one because we are hopefully coming up. We want to try and end this thing. We want to make sure we get all the information, but we want to try and keep this meeting as short as possible too, because people got things to do. So page 14, we got 3 cogs. So first cog of learning. So the cogs of learning. So this talks about whether as team members or learner or supervisors, how we absorb information, the best way we learn information. So the first one, so improve by leaving a legacy. So this is an opportunity for our veteran team members or people with maybe slightly more skills, knowledge about a said task, not necessarily more years, but maybe more adequate skill and knowledge of the skill. And that's where they pass down information. So as an example, Dan has been here longer than I have. He has more skill, knowledge, behavior, not just because he's been here forever, but that he has learned them over the years, and he has passed that down onto myself and other team members we have here. So he is improving us by leaving a legacy and sharing that information that he has absorbed over the years. That's one way to transfer information. Second way we can transfer information is from feedback. And so as an example, this would be a life and knife form. It could be a yearly review. It could be as simple as a conversation with a couple coffee cups and just talking with our supervisor or from team member to team member is we noticed that this person did this well, and here's an opportunity for improvement. So there's some reinforcement in there, and then there's something that they can work on in order to get better. So that is improving from feedback, and we're gonna see a lot of that next week, where we're gonna be giving each other feedback, team member to team member, through the entire week. But we noticed that one cog is bigger, and that other one is improved from self or team discovery. And so this ties into something we're going to talk about here shortly about motivation and so this improved by team or self-discovery is that struggle. And a struggle is not a bad thing. It might take a little more time, but I'm sure we could all remember a time where we did something and we didn't do it quite the easiest way. And now we know not to do it that way, and that we discovered a better way. So no one told us necessarily this is how we needed to do it, but they told us go do the job, figure it out, and then just get it done. And that allows us, we learn as adults so well through that, and that struggle sticks in our mind and we don't forget it. I always tell folks, in 19 years, I could give a million examples of what not to do. And from living in that self or team discovery. So large opportunity for our team members to grow is to have that advantage freedom and to make decisions within within some bumpers, naturally, not just complete free for all. So self or team discovery. So those are the 3 cogs of improved by leaving a legacy, feedback, and then self or team discovery. So that'd be concept number 6. Went through that pretty quick, but there's quite a bit of reading with this one that we can definitely go over the weekend. So with that, what questions we have on concept 6 before we go to the next one? All right. Concept number 7, Dan, motivation.
Woo-hoo, number 7, we're getting on the downhill now. So we're going to talk a little bit about what really motivates people. And one of our roles as coaches and leaders here at Knife River is we got to get people motivated and excited about the work that we do, and to, especially now that we're the new Knife River, how to perform at higher levels because we have higher expectations. And there's really 3 different ways that we can do this. We're going to go through the 3 different ways. And so the first way is probably the one that's the most common, and it's definitely the one that's most commonly used, and that's motivating people through external stimuli. This has been by far the most common, and we like it because it's easy and it's tangible. We can feel it, we can touch it, we can see it. But by itself, it's the least effective way to motivate. It's the most common, most widely used, yet least effective. And that is motivating people with the stick or with a carrot. And so by a carrot, we say, hey, if you will do this, we will give you that. So if you work 3 months without an accident, we will have a barbecue. Or if you complete this job by 5 o'clock tomorrow morning or tomorrow afternoon, everybody gets a t-shirt. Or if we can do this by a certain time frame, if we can keep our concrete at a certain quality level on this job site, then we're all going to get a keychain or a coffee mug. And then there's the flip side of this. If we don't get this job done by 5 o'clock tomorrow, then we'll have to work through the weekend. So that's a punishment. If we don't get this job done by 5 o'clock tomorrow, if you don't all hustle, then that means it's gonna ruin the weekend for everybody. Or if you do something unsafe, you're gonna get so much time off. I think that this works, and it has very minimal impact on people's motivation. It can be, but there's a better way. And the better way is what Mikey's going to go to now, is internal motivation. So internal motivation is where each individual, we create such a culture and such an environment that people do things because they want to, not because they have to, or they're going to get something, or something's going to be taken away. And we're going to be working a lot next week on internal motivation. In fact, Mikey and I may hear, how come we aren't getting a coffee cup for doing this? Or how come we aren't getting this for doing that? It's because we're not doing external rewards or motivation next week. We're doing everything internally. And there's 3 aspects to internal motivation. One is managed freedom. We're going to hear this word a lot, used a lot. And this allows everybody the flexibility and freedom to control their own destiny. We may set some parameters. We may say how much time we have, how much money we can spend, what tools we have available to use, but how it gets done, we don't care. It may not be the way I would do it. Mikey may have a different way of doing it, but if Mikey does it his way, not my way, then he's going to be more motivated to do the task, and it'll get done, and that's the bottom line. So internal motivation includes managed freedom. It also includes next bullet point there, Mikey.
Oh, it's there.
It is?
Yep. Can
You all probably could see it there. Like I said, my bandwidth is terrible. It's a sense of belonging. So one of the things we said earlier on, it's not what we're doing, it's how we're doing it. And so team members, if they know that they're included in the big picture, and they know what the expectations are and what we're trying to achieve, and we're going to try to model that next week. In fact, we tried to model it today by going over the agenda, by going over the objectives, and letting everybody know what's expected instead of just showing up like we typically do to a class with no clue what's going on. It's the same thing on the job site. If we let our folks know the big picture and what we're trying to achieve that week, and ask for people's input and ideas, engagement, and that we're all on the same team and we're all owners of Knife River and nobody works for nobody. We all work for ourselves. That's a sense of internal motivation. I get up in the morning not because I'm working for somebody else, but because I'm working for myself, and I want to achieve something great for myself and for my family. And then the third bullet point is growth. People need opportunities for both informal and formal growth. we ought to count this a privilege, even though this is going to be probably a pain for a lot of us. We're going to travel from home. We're going to be away from family. We're going to be away from work. It's going to be a royal pain. It's going to have some inconveniences. But think about this. Our company thinks so much and so highly of us that they want to provide us with an opportunity to change and to grow. And we need to do that for our team members. We need to create opportunities for each other on the team to help one another out and learn by leaving a legacy. And so when we have a team that has lots of freedom, there's a sense of oneness and belonging and a sense of growth, then we don't need to be handing out t-shirts and doing barbecues. We still can do that. And that's the third option, is a blend of both, but like an 80-20, heavy on the internal with a little bit of sprinkling of external motivation. But right now, most of our organization, it's the other way around. It's 95% external motivation and very little internal motivation. So as coaches, we're hoping that we'll kind of change the percentages here by going through this class and experiencing it ourselves. So this is called motivation. External, internal, and then a blend of both. Mikey?
Thanks, Dan. So page 16, we're going to talk about concept number 8. And we'll go through this, quite a bit of reading with this one. So we'll just hit the highlights. And so we got 4 things we talk about in the big 4 of principles for amazing leaders. So there's more. Here's some 4 big ones. So first one is be genuine. So as a leader, we want to be genuine. We want to, if we're going to walk, we're going to talk the talk, we're going to walk the walk, believe in what we're doing, and to be a good team member, be genuine, be ourselves. And we don't want to be something we're not. And our team members can see right through the fake. And so we need to be ourselves, do what we know how to do, and be genuine. The second thing is bring relevance to the job. The biggie with bring relevance is we need to explain the why. Why are we doing what we're doing? Team members, adults, everybody on the planet likes to know why we're doing what we're doing. Why are we digging a hole with a shovel versus an excavator? Hopefully there's a reason. There should be a reason. But to remember that when we give out and we talk about our goals or what we're going to be doing or where we're going or why we're doing this particular job in this order or whatever it is, the more we can bring relevance and the more we can answer that why question, we can start getting more people on board with the vision and the direction in which we're going. Third one, the leader should do less, the team members should do more. So this doesn't mean as the leader we sit back in the pickup with the AC on, the radio going while everyone's out there sweating on the job site. This directly ties into what Dan just talked about in that motivation, internal motivation. It's internal motivation, it's growth, it's belonging, and manage freedom. And so this is where we as leaders we provide the opportunities for our team members to do more. Where we do less, it tells us that we can go do other things potentially, but it also ties into the self or team discovery and the learning that we talked about with the 3 cogs. The more they can do, the better prepared they're going to be to move on and take on more responsibilities with the job. So leader does less, team member does more. The last one, trust the process. So that directly relates to the RAFR. The RAFR is the ready, aim, fire, reload. And that is a blueprint for us to be able to deliver an effective message without any waste, loss, or dribble or anything that we miss in delivering our message. And so that process is tried and true. It allows us to get our information across accurately and timely when we're working with our people. So with that, trust the process, be genuine, bring relevance, and the leader should do less, team members should do more. There's more reading with this concept. We won't do this one pretty quick. What questions we have on this one or the previous one? We are almost done. Dan, what do we have on number 9?
We're going to talk about connect to communicate, or connecting before communicating. And so we'll see on the graph on the next page, I believe it's somewhere, I don't have the packet in front of me, but between 17, 18, and 19, we'll see a set of stairs.
19.
And we're going to see, yeah, thank you, 19. And we're going to see a progression. They don't necessarily have to be in this order, but we do know that, some of these things sound common, but when Mikey and I, we shake a lot of hands. We have a lot of people coming through the training center, and we'll be surprised by how many don't have a very firm handshake, or they can't remember. They'll tell you, I can't remember your name. That if you can't remember somebody's name, at least don't tell them I can't remember your name. And so we got to learn what we do in our world. We are not in the mining and construction business. We are in the human relationships business. What we do is about creating and connecting with people and earning their trust and earning their business. And we do that by following these, starting out with when we see somebody, a customer, or even an inspector on a job site. Life, we get a lot through life by being, I think it's called honey, using honey, and, being polite and respectful to people, maintaining eye contact. A lot of times I'll shake hands with somebody for the first time. They can't even look me in the eyes. And so we're going to be working on these skills this week. The do our homework will come into play. It'll make a lot more sense as we progress through the day. So probably by Tuesday, it'll make the most amount of sense. So for right now, just trust the process, as Mikey said, but doing our homework's really critical in our relationship with other people. And so that'll make a full circle, especially Monday and Tuesday of next week. But let's read through this. Let's be prepared to recreate this and deliver this back on Monday. Mikey?
All right, number 10. We are on the last one, and then we got a couple little action items we need to do before we debark or before we leave. Couldn't think of the fancy word. Before we leave. All right, number 10. So we should see something that should be a graph. It should look something like that. So we're going to talk about 3 different buckets. And so this is a survey that Gallup took over several years, and they concluded this back in not a few years ago. They concluded the study on engaging our workforce. And the reason they stopped is it hasn't changed in a long time. And I actually looked this up probably 6 months ago, and it still hadn't changed. So we're going to talk about these 3 buckets. So starting at the very bottom, we have actively disengaged. So actively disengaged is 13% of our workforce. They are so unhappy at work. They're busy acting out. They're intentionally incompetent, potentially. They don't want to be there. They hate their job. They probably spread their bad message to the rest of people. They're acting out what their attitude is through their behaviors. They're just unhappy people. 13% of our workforce on average. We move up 1 bucket. We have the not engaged but satisfied. So we're gaining traction. And these people are essentially checked out, but they're good people. They show up every day. They do their job. They go home every day. They do exactly what is in the range of their job. There is no more and there is no less. The idea of another term is a time card puncher. So they clock in, they clock out, and they're done. 63% of our workforce is not engaged, but satisfied. So good people. We're going to talk about ways we're going to work with these groups here in a second. And then we have the very last group, and that's a highly engaged, and that's most likely why all of us are here. All the people that sign up for this class most likely are in the highly engaged, work with a passion. They want to get better. They want to push themselves. They're trying to pull their team members along to be better at their job. And that's 24% of our workforce of the highly engaged, works with a passion. So throughout the week, we are trying to move people from either actively disengaged and move them up to where they're at least happy-ish, kind of happy, or also really trying to move that 63%. We're trying to move them higher in that highly engaged. And it's using the things that we've been talking about. How do we motivate them? What is their scab? How do we use what skills and knowledge they bring to the group? What are some ways that we can improve their learning through team discovery? How can we engage them more effectively? How can we share information? So we're really trying to move these not engaged people up into that highly engaged. Because like Dan talked about, we are on our own as a company. We moved out of the house. We moved out of mom's house. So we are on our own, living in an apartment, and we sure like to buy a new big house. And to do that, we need to move more people in that are highly engaged and start moving our business forward and making it a even better standalone company. So a little bit of reading with this one. In a nutshell, if we get asked to deliver this one, we'll look to recreate this visual here and explain the 3 buckets there. So with that, that is the last of the concepts. We have a little bit to do right after this. And so with that, what questions do we have about the 10 concepts? All right. So a couple things little to-dos to take care of is we have another little piece of homework on page 22 that we'd like to have done Monday morning. Chris is walking by my window, asked him if I'm still talking, and the answer was yes. So we need to fill out this. Ours packet is horizontal or landscape. This one looks a little different. But basically what we want to do is read through these one at a time, and we just want to answer the question. There's not a right answer or wrong answer. This is an adult learning profile assessment. And how in the world, in a perfect world, I prefer to learn by, and we just pick one, maybe it's 2, and just kind of, and we want to go through this list and then tally up our scores at the bottom. We just want to make sure this is finished by Monday morning. We can do it right after this meeting if we want to, then that way it's fresh in our mind. Go through this, read over it, and we'll dive deeper into what all this means. Monday, probably late morning time, we'll go through this. So just a little bit of homework in addition. Another little bit of reading, which is situational leadership on page 23 and 24. Thought there was more. Just become familiarized with it. We don't need to go deep dive in it. We'll do a breakout group and we'll dive way deep into this in the classroom setting. But it helps to prime the pump if we have a little bit of knowledge beforehand. So if we just read over this prior to Monday morning, we'll be in a real good shape. So we have that survey to do, and then we have this reading on situational leadership, and that concludes the packet for now. So before we move on to the last little bit, what questions we have so far before we wrap this thing up, put a bow on it? Okay. So before we're going to talk about the training center here in a second and look at this map. So revisit. So we'll ask for people to come off of mute and help explain. So what is our understanding of the 10 concepts? What are we doing with the 10 concepts come Monday morning? Uh-oh, that's not good. All right, Monday morning. So Monday morning, we'll take our packet. Hopefully we fill it out. And Carlton, if we I suggest you go over the recording of this and go through it. But basically, we want to become familiar with all 10 concepts. We don't need to do any special Googling searches or anything. All the information is in the packet. We want to become familiar with all 10. Come Monday morning, we are going to be randomly assigned one of the 10. And we are going to deliver a short message, 3 to 5 minutes, on that concept. And we'll also create a visual aid. That'll probably happen within the first 30 minutes of class come Monday morning. So very imperative, that we bring our packet with us. Very imperative we bring our packet with us. We don't need to create any more anxiety than we probably might have when we show up. So make sure we bring our packet. It's going to be very vital to us come Monday morning. So that's what we're doing with the 10 concepts Monday morning. Second thing, what is our understanding? What's our short practice or individual? What's our topic on? Remember, or is it a choice?
I thought it was a choice.
It is a choice. Thank you. Yep, it is a choice. So we deliver our short message on Wednesday. It'll be 15 minutes on top of our choice, and Dan and I will talk here in a second about some suggestions or things we've heard before. And yeah, we'll deliver those on Wednesday. And then on Thursday, same thing applies, topic wise. It could be of our choice, safe, respectful, and so forth. But we'll be doing it with a partner, and we're looking for about an hour, about 60 minutes worth. And that'll be on Thursday. So with that, we'll invite Dan on here. Well, he's already on here. So, Dan, what are some examples that we might have heard over the umpteen years for this course for students and what they've done for topics? Just kind of prime the pump a little bit.
Yep. So thanks, Mikey. Anything that's safe, legal, and respectful. Otherwise, the sky's the limit. We've had probably the ratio of 5 to 10% of people talk about something at work. So we had somebody from QC talk a little bit about, I don't remember, it was slump or something here a while back, but 95% are talking about hobbies or things that we enjoy to do in our spare time. Food is a biggie. We learn a lot about, since I'm camping, I'm gonna smoke some barbecue. I'm gonna smoke some beef ribs here in a little bit for lunch. And I'm gonna be applying some of the techniques that I learned in a short practice. So people are talking about smoking barbecue ribs or brisket. We had one person who taught us how to make homemade ice cream with a baggie and some ice while backpacking. People traveling, how to travel to Europe for $2,000 and less. And I mean, there's just all sorts of how to change oil in a Harley Davidson motorcycle. It doesn't matter. Remember, it's not what we're doing, it's how we're doing it. Mikey, got any other suggestions?
Definitely on the hobbies, golf. Another person talked about all the different types of Scotch whiskeys and where they came from in Scotland and different areas on the space side and so on and so forth. That was pretty interesting. We didn't taste anything though, but maybe next time. So really, the big takeaway is we want to be familiar with our topic so that we don't need to have to do any research on the topic, because it's not about what we're doing, it's about how we're doing it. So we want to pick something that is so familiar with ourselves that we don't want to do any research. If someone asks us a few simple questions, we can answer those questions, not get stumped. Don't put a whole lot of stress into picking a topic. Just pick something easy that we all know what to talk about, that we know what to talk about, and just roll with that. The topic is just an excuse to talk about something. It's really all it's about. Pretty cut and dry.
Yep, that's good advice.
So, what questions we have before we're going to talk about where we're located, and then we are going to conclude this adventure. All right, for those that are flying in, I think we have some folks on a different meeting, but all you should be, I believe all you are flying in. So whether we're coming from Portland or Eugene, either way is fine. Exit 233, we are not very far off the freeway, which is good. All the hotels in which we have some rates, some special Knife River rates at a few different hotels. Holiday Inn and the Comfort Inn are good ones. They are right next to each other, which is nice. And there's a restaurant in the parking lot. The other one is the Phoenix Inn, which is over right next to the freeway. That one has pretty good internet. There's also a restaurant nearby too. Everything is within about a mile and some change from the center. So we're either going to leave our hotels, go down Highway 20, make a right, and then we're just a little ways down, quarter mile down, and we are over here by the Star. So pretty quick and easy to get there. It's about a 3-4 minute drive from either of those 3 hotels to the training center. Class starts sharply at 7:30 Monday morning. We'll get done around 4:30-ish time. Depends on how things go. We try not to stay too late. We don't get out early too often either, but right around that 4:30 time. and we'll start at 7:30 every morning. Probably going to be the most likely be a little bit of snack breakfast there. So if there's buffet breakfast at the hotel, feel free to eat that. When we show up in the morning, sometimes there's yogurt and granola, or there's fruit, or there's muffins or bagels or toast. So there is some food here when people show up on each morning as well.
Lunch is lunch provided, Mikey?
Yes, lunch is provided. It's 11:30. I don't know what the schedule is, but there will be food, and the food's pretty good. We have a catering service on site and full service kitchen, so we'll have food every day. It's
So
pretty
we're not
good.
going to be eating Domino's and Kentucky Fried Chicken and Taco Tony's. We aren't going to be doing any of that.
We might have Taco Tuesday.
But it's not from like Taco Bell.
No Taco Bell.
Okay.
All homemade cookies, all sorts. It's good food. Yep, good food, and we'll have snacks in the afternoon. Yeah, if a person goes away hungry, it's on them because there is so much food here. It's crazy. Dan, what else? You got anything else?
No, I think most of you are probably flying in from Portland. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. So you're going to invite, I know you probably read about Portland in the news or saw it on TV, but you're going to miss all of that stuff. The Portland airport is right next to, once you get your rental car, you get your baggage, all that, you're just going to get on Interstate 5 and you're going to drive about an hour and a half. There'll be a little bit of snarly traffic, kind of like in Austin and Dallas, up in the Portland area for a little bit. You might be doing a little stopping and going, but once you get going, it's a straight shot south down to exit 233. And it's a beautiful drive, and it's very relaxing once you get out of the Portland area.
Yeah. So with that, if we don't have any questions, we can conclude this. We're done, and look forward to seeing everybody show up on Monday morning. Be ready for class at 7:30, and we'll start the learning adventure. And with that, we appreciate your all's time, and we will see you Monday morning. Dan and I will be the last ones off, so if someone wants to stay and has a question, we can answer that question. Other than that,
Dress corporate casual, so just dress comfy. You don't have to dress up, but definitely don't dress down. But because we never know who's going to show up at the training center. It's a hub of activity there, so we want to represent ourselves and our company well. But you definitely don't need to dress up.
thank you.
Thank you. See y'all next Monday.
See you guys.
See you. Thanks.
You bet.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks, Charlton.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.